जय राधा माधव कुञ्ज विहारी गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। जय राधा माधव कुञ्ज विहारी गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी। यशोदानन्दना व्रजजनरञ्जना यमुनातीरवनचारी। यशोदानन्दना व्रजजनरञ्जना यमुनातीरवनचारी। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे कृष्ण। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। जय राधा मदन मोहन राधे, राधा मदन मोहन राधे। जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव नित्य गौरा हरि बोल, हरि बोल, हरि बोल, हरि बोल। टाइगर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। Hare Krishna. I welcome you all to our third session on the topic Devyani and Sharmishta. So today we will start. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 19, Text 27 to 28. Sasannivasam suhridam prapayamiv gacchatam Vijñāyeshvara tantranam maya virachitam prabho सर्वत्र संगम उत्सृज्य स्वप्नौपम्येन भार्गवी कृष्णे मनः समावेश्य व्यधुनोल्लिङ्गमात्मनः सा सन्निवासं सुहृदां प्रापयाम् इव गच्छतां विज्ञायेश्वरतन्त्राणां मायाविरचितं प्रभो सर्वत्र संगम उत्सृज्य स्वप्नौपम्येन भार्गवी कृष्णे मनः समावेश्य Vyadhunolingamatmanaha. Once more. Sa sannivasam suhridam prapayamiva gacchatam Vijnayeshvara tantranam maya virachitam prabho Sarvatra sangamutsrujya swapnaupam yena bhargavi Krishne manasamaveshya vyadhunolingamatmanaha. Translation. Thereafter, Devayani, the daughter of Shukracharya, understood that the materialistic association of husband, friends, and relatives is like the association in a hotel full of tourists. The relationships of society, friendship, and love are created by the Maya of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, exactly as in a dream. By the grace of Krishna, Devayani gave up her imaginary position in the material world. Completely fixing her mind upon Krishna, she achieved liberation from the gross and subtle bodies. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. One should be convinced that he is a spirit soul, part and parcel of the Supreme Brahman, Krishna, but has somehow or other been entrapped by the material coverings of the gross and subtle bodies, consisting of earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. One should know that the association of society, friendship, love, nationalism, religion, and so on are nothing but creations of Maya. One's only business is to become Krishna conscious and render service unto Krishna as extensively as possible for a living being. In this way, one is liberated from material bondage. By the grace of Krishna, Devayani attained this state through the instructions of her husband. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guroho Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Brindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So I thank you all for taking your time for attending this session today. So we will have a quick recap of what we have learned the last 2 weeks and then we will take off. So we are discussing about the two good friends, Sharmishta and Devayani. Two good friends they were at a point of time, but then we saw how their friendship broke. So in this, Devayani was the Brahmani and Sharmishta was the daughter of Rishaparva, the king, and so she was a Kshatrani. So both of them had a very bad fight. They had a wordy duel. There was because of the situation we have discussed last time, and they exchanged very harsh words. So it is said that speech is an indication of what is inside the heart. For example, we have this various diagnostic tests. So whatever is the output from the body is used as a material to analyze and then detect what's the pathology going on inside the body. As we have a stool test, or we have the blood test and the urine test or the sputum test. And when you give it to the diagnostic lab, they analyze it and they give a report saying that this indicates that there is this pathology in your body. Similarly, just like these outputs are an indicator for an inner pathology in the body, similarly, speech is an indicator for what is the nature of the ego of the person. So just by hearing the speech of a particular person, one can assess what exactly is the kind of ego this person is carrying. Is it a positive one? Is it highly false one? Or is it situated rightly as a servant of Krishna? The speech indicates everything, starting from what the culture of the person is in the background, what is his many things, in fact. The speech is an indication of the inner software of a person. So basically this exchange of this worldly duel for such a trivial incident, apparently it was nothing, it was a very childish incident, but the kind of language that was used and exchanged, it actually meant a lot. In fact, it meant what was within their hearts. It was an indication of what was within their hearts. So we have seen that at the end of this verbal fight, Sharmishta actually showed things in action and pushed Devayani into the well. And Devayani was later rescued by Yayati, the pious devotee king, who was at that time going on a tour, check the welfare of his citizens. So as he pulled her out, Devayani proposes marriage, and then it was meant to be, as it was will of providence, as she was earlier cursed by Kacha that she would be married to a Kshatriya. So Devayani returns home and she goes and cries in front of her father Shukracharya. We discussed this last time, and she reports to him about the incident that has happened. And Shukracharya really he regrets his position as a priest, an official priest at the palace of the king. Regrets that he is not a person completely dependent on the Lord, and he actually goes to the king to ask for a justice for his daughter. So basically in this situation we see how Devayani, being the daughter of Shukracharya, has become a kind of weakness for him. So a responsible child should always be a strength to the parents and not a mere weakness. So Shukracharya goes to Rishaparva, and then Rishaparva, on the other hand, knowing about Shukracharya and then his weakness for his daughter, and then he also knows about Shukracharya's anger, and he knows what the anger of a spiritual master can do to him and his whole kingdom. He actually receives him with lot of honor and reverence, and he submits himself, saying that I'm willing to do anything. Then Shukracharya gets pacified and he says, fine, okay. And he says, yes, Sharmishta, my dear Devayani, please tell me, what do you want? What can we do for you? How may we pacify you? Then Devayani says, I want that Sharmishta, along with all her maids, become my slaves. Sharmishta has to become my slave, and she, along with all her maidservants, should accompany as my maidservants after I get married. And Rishaparva says an unconditional yes to her demand. So why Rishaparva agrees to her demand? Because Rishaparva wants to appease his spiritual master and not to lose all his opulence and kingdoms, not to invite the anger of such a powerful person as Shukracharya. That was the reason why he agrees and sends his daughter Sharmishta as a slave or a maidservant for Devayani. So we see here actually Devayani, though she was a Brahmani by birth, but as such she never possessed the qualities of a Brahmana. What are the qualities of Brahmana? Kshamo dhamas tapas shaucham kshanti rajyavamevacha jnana vijnana mastikyam brahma karma svabhavajam. Kshama, the very first quality of a Brahmana is forgiveness. But we see here, and Brahmanas do get angry, but in Prabhupada explains the anger of a Brahmana is like the milk that is boiling. That is, they just get, in a jiffy they get angry and then immediately they cool down. They never carry a vengeful attitude. But we see in the case of Devayani, indeed she carried that feeling of vengeance and she actually enacted that. Not just she demanded that. She demanded that Sharmishta becomes her maidservant. That was serious vengeance. And that too for such a small act. So that was in fact not a Brahmanical quality that Devayani exhibited through all these episodes. So in fact that was one of the reasons why she was cursed by Kacha, that she will not get a Brahmana husband. Because for an apparently moral cause from his side that he rejected her proposal, that even after expressing the cause, Devayani still cursed him. So she said, he cursed her back saying that you don't deserve a Brahmana husband. So we see the same attitude continuing again and again in her. So yes, so Vrishaparva agrees to give Sharmishta in marriage to he agrees to give Sharmishta as a maid to Devayani, and that's how the story continues. Today we shall continue from there. So soon after this, Shukracharya arranges for the wedding of Yayati and Devayani. So there was this beautiful wedding, and it is said that though it was a Pratiloma Vivaha, Pratiloma is that Devayani belonged to the Brahmanical class and Yayati is from a Kshatriya background. So whenever the girl is of a superior social caste than the boy, it is called a Pratiloma Vivaha. And in the traditional days, in ancient age, this was not a very desirable form of marriage because the children born from them are not of great capacity. So, but then Shukracharya says, he tells, do not worry Yayati, though it is a Pratiloma Vivaha, the bad effects of that, this is not going to affect you. I will take care of it. So Shukracharya was all powerful. He could take care of all these nitty-gritties. So Yayati was happy, and then he happily got married to Devayani, and they started off back to his kingdom. So as they were going, Yayati comes to give Shukracharya gives a send-off to Yayati. And as parting words, Shukracharya warns Yayati, saying that, my dear Yayati, I wish you all the best for the rest of the life. Please remember one thing, now along with Devayani, Sharmishta is going to come, and along with Sharmishta, all her maidservants. Never try to beget children through Sharmishta. He warns him in advance. Then Yayati says, okay. And then Devayani along with Yayati, they start off to his kingdom, and they live a happy life, and Devayani begets a son through Yayati. The first one's name is Yadu, and after him comes Turvasu. So Yadu and Turvasu are the two sons of Devayani. So after some time, what happens is Sharmishta also becomes desirous of having a son from Yayati. And then she goes and approaches Yayati and expresses her heart's desire. My dear king, This is my desire. I am seriously desirous of having a son through you. Now Yayati is in a fix because it is it is a religious principle for a kshatriya to accept the proposal of a kshatrani, especially if any kshatriya lady comes and expresses her desire for a son through him, he cannot reject her. That is the religious principle for a kshatriya. So he does remember what Shukracharya has already warned him, but he did not want to go against the religious principle of having rejecting the proposal of a lady who wants to beget a child. So Srila Prabhupada in the purport beautifully explains that this kind of a desire from Sharmishta to have a son through Yayati, it is not lust, nor is it irreligious. It is a religious act. In fact, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna himself says, Dharma viruddha bhuteshu kamosmin bharatarshava. Dharma viruddha bhuteshu kamosmin. The lust or sex life that is not against religious principle, I am that. So Krishna explains the purity of that lust when it is dovetailed in the service of the Lord to beget a son, to beget a devotee son. So it was that with that desire that Sharmishta approached Yayati, and Yayati also accepted her in a very wonderful way. So, I mean, because he did not want to transgress the religious principle of not accepting woman who has approached him for a son. So apparently now this seems to be a very mean thing from the current day point of view. Yayati is already married to another woman. How can he accept another lady? So it was the norm in those days that Kshatriyas could be polygamous. In fact, men could be polygamous because polygamous, that is, they can marry more than one wife in a way that they take responsibility for their lives. Not just that they indulge in an affair and then leave them to their fate. No, they marry number of wives, they take care of all of them, and they take care of their children as well. And kings had that kind of an opulence, that kind of capacity to marry multiple wives and also beget children through them and then take care of their children. Not just wives, they also could beget children through their maids. And the sons are also called Dasi Putras. We see this many times in Mahabharata too happening. And they were further taken care. So the polygamy is not an irreligious thing. It was very much prevalent because of the kings of those days had the capacity and also the responsibility. They could take the responsibility of many. So that's the reason this was not considered irreligious. But current day, the situation is that people, when they get into a relationship or an affair, they only seek enjoyment, but they do not want to take responsibility. Now that's the whole concept of contraception. Contraception is we want enjoyment, but we don't want any responsibility of children. Now that is irreligious. So one needs to understand what is religion and irreligion. The knowledge and the ability to discern between what is religion and irreligion is important for us to lead a life that is free from bad karma. If not, a person, because of lack of knowledge, unknowingly gets entangled into so many complicated networks of Maya that it is so difficult to come out from. So this is what actually Lord Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita, that what is adharmam dharmam itiya manyate tamasavrita sarvarthan viparitam sacha buddhi sa pata tamasi. So adharmam dharmam itiya. So people in mode of ignorance, they take what is adharma as dharma. And so manyate tamasavrita, and what they do, sarvarthan viparitamscha, all their endeavors are in the opposite direction. This kind of intelligence or understanding is that understanding in the mode of ignorance. So Lord Krishna is telling clearly in Bhagavad Gita that these people in the mode of ignorance, they cannot differentiate between what is dharma and adharma. Not just differentiate, they take what is adharma to be dharma and what is dharma to be adharma. For example, some of these hardcore fans of cricket, they start saying that uh, cricket is our religion and Sachin is our god. So cricket is our religion. So this is a typical example of understanding is a mode of ignorance. One needs to, what is irreligion is considered religion, and what is religion is irreligion. Such an understanding does not lead a person to an auspicious destination. So this is understanding in the mode of ignorance. So, but we see that Sharmishta approaching the king, on the other hand, Yayati, for having a son through him, it was religious, very much religious. So, going ahead, now Yayati agrees her proposal, and he begets 3 sons through her. Sharmishta begets 3 sons. Three sons are named Drihyu, Anu, and Puru. So these are the 3 sons of Sharmishta. So somehow this news of Sharmishta begetting children reaches the ears of Devayani. So when Devayani hears this, that Sharmishta could beget children through her husband, Yayati, she becomes frenzied with anger. She couldn't take it. She, my maid servant, and she was having so much of rivalry from the past that it was out of that vengeance she wanted her to be her servant maid, and now the same servant maid became my whatever. So competitor, whatever. She could beget sons through my husband. I cannot take this. So in that frenzy, she leaves home and she walks away. She goes to her home. And Yayati sees that she's left him and she's going. And now Yayati runs behind her. And he starts appeasing her with pleasing words. Please, Devayani, don't go away. I really cannot live without you. And he goes begging after her. He even touches her feet. He starts massaging her feet. But Devayani, no. She was very proud, and she could not forgive him. She was very unforgiving in nature, that we've been seeing constantly right from the beginning. So Devayani, she walks hurriedly to her father. So if you can see here in this whole situation, Yayati, he was a devotee king. When he saw Devayani in the well, he went to save her by pulling her out of the well. But now what he has become? He has become so attracted and attached to her. So many times, even in our lives, we go to save somebody, especially in our Krishna consciousness, in our preaching especially, the preachers, they go to save someone. But meanwhile, due to the service propensity, when it turns into enjoyment propensity, the same service actually entangles you if you do not take proper care. So that's what happened with Yayati. He went to save her, but later he himself got entangled in this whole situation. He became a slave of her. So now then Devayani goes to Shukracharya, and she complains that, Father, look at this, see what Yayati did to me. And Shukracharya, he starts red with anger. He said, I told you already not to do this, and you have done it despite my warning. Now I curse you. I curse you that you become an old and invalid person. And Yayati really turns and transforms into that old and invalid person. And Yayati has received the shock of his life. How could I be cursed like this? And not just that, he starts begging Shukracharya, my dear sir, this is not right on your part. You cannot curse me like this. Because He gives a reason to. I have not yet satisfied my desires with your daughter, Devayani. So if you have cursed me right now, I cannot be peaceful, nor can your daughter be. So this is the nature of Maya. Basically, the how Maya can really attack a person. It is said that one should, if you see, Yayati was a devotee of Krishna. He was a he was devoted and pious king, but still he was in through this situation we can see that he was totally captivated by the feminine aspect of Maya, that it was strong pull. The attraction for a woman is really pulling her, that he's not able to handle the situation. He wants to regain his youth by all means. So he goes and begs Shukracharya. So there are two aspects in the life of a devotee which have to be well balanced. One is one should be conscious of Krishna and at the same time be cautious of Maya. They both have to go hand in hand, conscious of Krishna and cautious of Maya. If you're only conscious of Krishna and not cautious of Maya, there is a fall down. On the other, and similarly, if you're only cautious of only cautious of Maya and not conscious of Krishna, again it leads to a fall down. I'll give you a small example. You see in the life of Bharat Maharaj, he was at the stage of Bhava Bhakti. Bhava Bhakti means it's almost at the topmost, just one step lesser than pure love of Godhead. He was at that stage of Bhava that for seeking the Lord, he could leave behind his kingdom, his obedient wife, his children, everything, all his opulences, everything he just left behind. Just like a person leaves behind the stool that he passes and doesn't even care for it. That's how he just left behind his kingdom and everything and left to the forests. But then in the forest, he got attached to a deer, an innocent looking deer. He got attached to it. So attached to it that he got distracted from his daily sadhana. The purpose of him to go to the jungle is to be devoted to the Lord. And now what happened? He got attached to a deer, so much so he got distracted in his sadhana. Every minute, every moment, he was just thinking of the deer. So much so that he started glorifying the deer, saying that this earth has become so beautiful and so fortunate because now it has the lotus footprints of my deer. That's how he started even composing poetry on the deer. And while he was leaving body, he was just thinking of that same deer. So here we see in the life of Bharat Maharaj, he was conscious of Krishna, but he was not cautious of Maya. He was a devotee, he was so devoted, but he was not cautious of Maya. That's why he fell down. And the other extreme is to be cautious of Maya, but not conscious of Krishna. Example is we see as Saubhari Muni. Saubhari Muni was so cautious of Maya that he didn't want any disturbance from this external world. That's why he goes underwater for his tapasya and meditation. So, but then when Garuda comes and he starts eating the various fish in the lake, he does not understand the position of Garuda as a devotee of the Lord. And Garuda, for them, it is his natural dharma to feed upon the fishes. So he was not conscious of the position of Garuda as a devotee of the Lord. Because of which he commits an offense to Garuda, and because of which he will later fall down because of the very same fishes which he wanted to protect. He sees two fishes mating and then he gets totally distracted from his tapasya and he wants to go and get married. So why is that mere mating of fishes could disturb such a renunciate like Saubhari Muni? It was because he offended Garuda, who was a devotee of Lord. So he was not conscious of Krishna or the position of Krishna's devotees, though he was very cautious of Maya. So this is the other extreme. So if a person is on either of these two extremes, that only cautious of Maya or only conscious of Krishna, not giving sufficient weightage to the other aspect, then eventually a person could give in to the lower tendencies. So this is what exactly happened to Yayati. He was a God conscious king, but then how he got so carried away with the association of Devayani, and he got so uh, allured by the pleasures of the body and mind that he couldn't give them up, so much so that he was begging Shukracharya that please give me back my youth because I haven't satiated my desires with Devayani. So this is what happens when a person does not pay sufficient attention to how Maya is slowly taking over our lives. So coming back to Shukracharya says, oh yes, what you said is true. Now my daughter too will be at a loss if I curse you, but I have already cursed you. So what you can do is you can go and exchange your old age with somebody's youth. In that way you can regain your lost youth. So, in fact, he says, he suggests you can go and exchange your old age with your sons. So, Yayati says, okay. And he goes back to his kingdom and he shamelessly requests all his sons, please give me your youth in exchange to my old age. So, this is what desire for lust and sense gratification can turn a person into. He actually went to his sons asking for their youth, saying that I haven't yet satiated my desires, my material desires. So first he asks Yadu, he being the eldest, and Yadu rejects the proposal of his father, the request of his father. He says, my dear father, I am very sorry, I cannot give my youth to you. So Srila Prabhupada beautifully explains that the rejection of Yadu is not a irreligious principle. In fact, not only Yadu, but the remaining other three sons also reject Yayati's request. But Yadu requesting the request of his father was religious, but the remaining sons rejecting the request of their father was irreligious. How is this possible? The understanding is Yadu did it with the understanding that I have this material body. Right now I am in the prime of my youth and I have certain material desires and I should fulfill them at the right age and later renounce them and then completely engage in myself in the devotional service of the Lord. So to falsely cross over certain stages of Varnashram without having fulfilled those desires that are relevant to that particular stage of life, I cannot come to the stage of a natural renunciation. So that is the reason why Yadu rejects, because his goal was, I want to be done with these desires so that I, in a full-fledged way, I completely engage in the service of the Lord. So in fact, this was dharma. In later part of Bhagavatam, he was glorified as Yadohi Dharmashilasya. He was knower of dharma. And he was such a dear servant of the Lord that the Supreme Lord Krishna himself has appeared in his dynasty. That is why Krishna is called Yaduvamsha. Yaduvamsha Chandra. Yaduvamsha Sudambuddha Chandra is Lord Krishna. The beautiful moon that is born in the Yaduvamsha is Lord Krishna. So the whole dynasty in which the Lord Krishna is born is named after Yadu. That was how he was a dear devotee of the Lord, and he was also glorified as Dharmashilasya, knower of dharma. So his rejection of his father's request was not considered adharma. On the other hand, the rest of the sons rejected the proposal of their father out of their personal desires, not knowing what is religion. So that for which their rejection was considered irreligious. Then later Puru, who is the son of Sharmishta, he accepts the old age of his father. And again his understanding was, I'm accepting your old age because it is the duty of the son to fulfill the desire of the father, only by which the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pleased. So his focus also is Krishna, pleasing the Lord. So he accepts the old age of his father, Yayati. So Yayati gives the old age to Puru, and then it is said for the next 1,000 years, Yayati, he ruled over the kingdom with full vigor, and he ruled over the 7 islands, established all great religious principles, did all the sacrifices that are needed, expected of a king, and he enjoyed his life with Devayani in a very unparalleled way. He and his all his five senses were totally soaked in sense gratification with in his marital life with Devayani, and at the same time he also uh, performed his religious duties as a king. And at the back of his mind, he also was contemplating on the service of Lord Krishna. So it is in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes that though externally he was engaged in sense gratification, internally he was thinking about becoming the servant of the Supreme Lord. So in this way, 1,000 years passed by, and at the end of 1,000 years, after this, you know, gross indulgence in sense gratification, what was the result of it? Now comes the turning point of the whole story. What was the result of this great enjoyment that he hankered for, that he went through at the cost of the youth of his own son? He ruled over the kingdom. He had unparalleled enjoyment with his wife Devayani, and even Devayani pleased him in so many ways by satisfying all his desires. At the end of this 1,000 years, Yayati was frustrated. He was not satisfied. And then one day he started talking to his wife. My dear Devayani, I want to tell you a story. And he starts telling her a story. He says that once upon a time there was a goat, G-O-A-T, goat. And this goat had huge, big horns. And he saw a she-goat that fell in a well. And disgusted and frustrated. So he started narrating this allegorical story to his wife, Devayani. So he started narrating about how once upon a time there was a goat, G-O-A-T, goat. And this goat saw a she-goat in a well that has fallen in a well. So this he-goat had big horns, a very well-built goat, and this she-goat was also very beautiful. So this goat dug up the well with his horns and with a lot of endeavor and pulled out the she-goat. And later, this he-goat was so fascinated by the beautiful bodily features of the she-goat, and he enjoyed with her. And not just her, along with her came all her friends, a group of friends, her associates. So this he-goat had very multiple affairs with all these she-goats which accompanied the first she-goat. And he was so lost in that enjoyment that he forgot the purpose of life. And one day this she-goat, being disgusted that the he-goat is actually involved in such affairs with other she-goats who are her previous friends, she goes back to her original maintainer, who was a Brahmana. Then the he-goat shamelessly runs after this she-goat and asks her to come back. But the she-goat nevertheless goes back to the original maintainer. And this he-goat becomes cursed because of his acts by the Brahmana. And then the Brahmana tells that you can exchange your, he gets cursed that you become old. And and then this Brahmana actually makes the he-goat impotent. And So on. This he goat was still, he could, by the power of the Brahmana, he could reverse his condition. And then he goes and he continues to enjoy with the she goat relentlessly for a long time. So much so that he was so lost in this enjoyment that he forgot the very purpose of his life, and he came back to his senses. So, saying this, Yayati goes into a deep despair. He feels so lost. He feels that, as he was preaching to her, he explains that this is the nature of the relationship between a man and woman. Pumsastriya mithuni bhavametam tayor mitho hridaya grantirahu ato griha kshetra sutapta vitter janasya mohoyam aham mameti. So this is the nature of the bond between a male and female. Pumsa striya mithuni bhavamitam. When man and woman come together, knot in the heart is formed, hridaya granthi is formed. And then from that knot of material desires develops janasya moham yam aham mameti. You develop the illusion of I and mine. So this is what is the nature of lust. So in fact, that is why lust is such a formidable enemy in the life of a devotee. Not just a devotee, of any living entity. That is why in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna is so strong against lust. He tells Arjuna that it is lust only, Arjuna. It is Kramesha Krodesha Rajoguna Samudbhava Mahashana Mahapapma Vidhiyena Vairinam. That is Mahashano Mahapapma. That is, it is lust only, Arjuna, that is born out of contact with the mode of passion, that is turning into wrath. That is, it is the all-devouring sinful enemy of this world. This is what Lord Krishna told about lust. Mahashano Mahapapma. That is, it is all-devouring sinful enemy of this world. So from the very beginning, curb this enemy called lust. So Krishna is telling to Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita. So how to overcome this lustful propensities and the lower side of the nature, lower side of the human nature? It is only possible by getting a higher taste of spirituality. Krishna himself tells in Bhagavad Gita, Vishyami nivartante niraharasya dehinam rasavarjo rasopyasya param drishtva nivartate. Only param drishtva nivartate. Only by higher taste a person can overcome these lower tendencies. So what is this higher taste? The higher taste comes from taste for spiritual activities, taste for example, reading Srila Prabhupada's books, taste for associating with devotees, taste for worshipping and serving the deities, taste for only serving the Lord and honoring prasadam. This is all the higher taste. Only because of the higher taste, a person can give up lower tendency. It is not some kind of an artificial curbing of one's desires. It can happen, a person can be gradually elevated to the spiritual platform by attaining a higher taste. And what happens when a person relishes this higher taste? He no longer hankers for all the wonderful allurements that Maya provides. And Kulashekara Alvar in Mukundamala Stotra writes, Naham vande tava charanayo dvandva madvandva heto kumbhi pakam gururapi hare narakam napanetum ramya rama mridutanulata nandane napirantum bhave bhave hridaya bhavane bhavayeyam bhavantam. So Ramya Rama Mridutanulata Nandane Napirantum. I am not asking you, my Lord, to give me the association of the beautiful, most delicate women whose bodies are tender like the creepers. I'm not asking for that kind of an association. I'm not even asking you to deliver me from the dualities of the world. I'm not even asking you to deliver me from hellish conditions. What I'm begging you is that birth after birth, in my heart, I just want to be your devotee, and in my heart, I just want to worship you. This is my desire. So, this is the desire of a devotee. This is the desire of one who has really tasted the sweetness of bhakti. And this is the only way to overcome the lower propensities of life. The one sure, short way by which one does not return or fall back to lower positions. So, this is how lust can really take a person for a ride. And King Yayati, after preaching all this to Devyani, he tells that, and he says that even after 1,000 years of enjoyment, the desire is such that I'm still having plans to again further increase my life of sense gratification. This is the way that it is never subjugated. So, having said this, King Yayati at once, at that very moment, he gives his youth to his son Puru, and then he completely surrenders. Actually, Bhagavatam describes that in a moment he gives up his attraction for this mundane family life and attachments, and he completely surrenders his heart to the Supreme Personality of Godhead at that very moment. So when he surrenders to the Supreme Lord, he totally situates himself and becomes fixed up in that consciousness of being a servant and a devotee of the Supreme Lord. And Devayani, on the other hand, though this story was narrated to her in a very joking way, as a matter of conversation between a wife and husband, she actually was awakened in her consciousness. She was awakened to the true knowledge of Krishna consciousness. And that is when she feels that because of that awakening, she starts seeing things as they are. That was what we were reading in the purport today. She was telling that she understood that the materialistic association of husband, friends, and relatives is like the association of a hotel full of tourists. The relationship of society, friendship, and love are created by Maya of Supreme Personality of Godhead, exactly as in a dream. So when does a person speak like this? When they're actually able to see the truth and reality of things as it is. Now, Devyani said that it is the relationship with a husband is a creation of Maya in a dream. But she did not reject her husband as such. She was still subservient, and she was acting in the capacity of a good wife as a servant of her husband. And actually, the association of her husband delivered her from the clutches of Maya. So that is the power of association. Her Yayati, in the beginning of the whole story, he rescued her from the well, and later towards the end of life, he rescued her from the well of Maya, material existence. So this was the story of Devyani. So she was so awakened in her heart to self-realization that she herself surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and she became a wonderful devotee. So this is Bhagavatam. These are the narrations of Srimad Bhagavatam stories. So they all culminate in surrender to the Supreme Lord. They all culminate in giving one's heart to the Supreme Person. It all always culminates in reconnecting oneself to the supreme object of love and worship. This is the same theme and thread that passes by all the narrations and pastimes of Bhagavatam. We see the same thing in the pastime of Devahuti and Kardama Muni. After their whole big period of enjoyment later on, they were completely dedicated. They were totally awakened by the transcendental knowledge, and they have given their life for loving devotional service to the Supreme Lord. And we see the same thing that's happening in the life of Devayani as well, and Yayati. So this is exactly the glory of Srimad Bhagavatam, that this very theme is repeated time and again, the theme of devotional service, pure devotional service unto the Supreme Lord. So, if you see here, the whole pastime had so many flavors. There was friendship, there was vengeance, there is revenge, there was romance, there was detachment, there was renunciation, all these things. So, this renunciation, people may falsely think that the renunciation that Yayati went through is because he has enjoyed so much. People have this wrong conception or misconception, saying that for a person to attain to renunciation, they should indulge so much in sense gratification. There is also a misnomer. There is a kami kani vadu moksha gami kadu. A wrong understanding of this. Unless a person has gone through the phase of full-fledged sense gratification, a person cannot attain the stage of renunciation. This is one of the misconceptions. It is not true. The renunciation does not come because of indulgence in sense gratification. Renunciation comes because of bhakti. The Srimad Bhagavatam first canto explains, Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janayati Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Tad Ahetukim. Bhakti results in giving two aspects, Jnana and Vairagya. Jnana and Vairagya are byproducts of bhakti. So the Vairagya comes in a person's life because of devotion to the Supreme Lord, not because of indulgence in sense gratification. If indulgence in sense gratification were to bring a person to renunciation, then why is it not happening in everybody's life? Why everybody is not coming to the same conclusion that Yayati has come to? There are so many people in the scriptures that we see, let's say Hiranyakashipu and so many, but they all did not come to the same conclusion. So it is because of bhakti, and also it is because of association. This is the whole key factor in this whole pastime. Devyani, despite what all happened in the past, at the end of life, she received an awakening in transcendent knowledge in her heart because of Yayati, because of her association with Yayati. This is the power of association. So how was Yayati such a glorious devotee? Whose association did he have? So in another commentary of Vaishnavacharyas, it is explained that Yayati was a contemporary of Ambarish Maharaj. And Ambarish Maharaj was a pure devotee of the Lord. He was such a great saintly king that even Durvasa Muni could not curse him. And Durvasa Muni, actually, he had to flee because Lord Sudarshan Chakra came and started chasing him because he apparently offended Ambarish Maharaj. He was that powerful a devotee. So, Yayati was a contemporary of Ambarish Maharaj. So because of being a contemporary of Ambarish Maharaj, the same devotional atmosphere, it spread through the entire planet. And he in fact was indirectly associated with Ambarish Maharaj. So he was also devoted to the Lord through the association of Ambarish Maharaj. So the whole key in Krishna consciousness is association. So that's actually when we are when we see the whole pastime of Devyani and Sharmishta, we see so many flavors in the whole pastime. The flavor of friendship, the flavor of revenge, the flavor of different attitudes, the flavor of romance, the flavor of cursing. All these flavors are there, and they were all different people. So similarly, in our life too, we have different people in our lives and different flavors. And they were, we make a lot of recipes with all these persons and flavors. So different ingredients in our recipes are the different people whom we have in our lives, and the different flavors are friendship, parental affection, love, and there is romance. These are all the different flavors. So, and we all have hunger. What is our hunger? We're all having the hunger for love, hunger for pure love. So, and we make so many recipes with the ingredients and in different flavors, and we all consume these recipes, but none of these recipes seem to be satiating our hunger. We become hungry once again. Sometimes the recipes are delicious, sometimes the recipes are not so good, sometimes the recipes are I don't want to talk about it. That all the recipes manifest in different flavors and ways. So these are our recipes of life with different people as the ingredients, and the different flavors are the different kinds of relationships we share with them, as a friendship, paternal affection, and uh, or romance, or these are the different flavors. So with all these, we are never satiated. But in these recipes, adding one magical ingredient can satiate your hunger forever. And what is that magical ingredient? That magical ingredient is Krishna. Just by adding Krishna to your life, your eternal hunger for love is satiated for eternity, for good. So Krishna is one such, is that one person, is that one magical ingredient who can satiate our hunger and thirst for love for eternity. So that's what we also saw in the whole pastime of Devayani and Yayati. After all that, it is said that all is well that ends well. After all that they had been through, after all that Devayani had been through in her life, she came to the conclusion that Krishna, you're the supreme, and I want to surrender my life to you. So, if all that has happened in your life is bringing to the point of understanding the purpose of life, then your life is a success. So, if you, in all the recipes that you make, if you get to understand what is that magical ingredient that can truly satiate the hunger of love, then you've got the recipe for life. So, thank you.